Hello and welcome once again. In the previous lesson, we looked at getting started with Microsoft Excel 2019. In this session, we are going to look at formatting a worksheet. Formatting a worksheet. By this time, I think you should know how to at least open a new workbook to start a new task in a worksheet. You should be familiar with the ribbon to some extent. You should know where the formula bar is, know where the cell name box, and a few other things at least. So we'll briefly look at the formatting activity we can perform on a worksheet. I mean, the term formatting, as you got to know in Microsoft Word, is no different from the same formatting in Excel. They are very, very synonymous, and so we hope you can adjust seamlessly to the comprehension of what we are going to do in this particular session. Okay, right, so what our objectives for this particular session, we are going to try and format values, change font and font size, change font styles, and alignment, adjust column width, insert and delete rows and columns, apply colors, borders, and documentation, apply conditional formatting, rename and remove a worksheet, and of course check spelling. All of these activities are captured under formatting in Microsoft Excel 2019. Basically, just as we got to know about what formatting literally meant, any effort to adjust the look and feel of a document is what we refer to as formatting. It is not editing. Adjust the look and feel of a document is what we refer to as formatting. So you can decide to bolden a portion of the document. You can decide to make a portion of the document italic, introduce some signs, commas, and so on and so forth. Events such as these are what we refer to as formatting of a document. It does not change the data on the document, okay? It only affects the appearance, the look and feel of the document. So you can do this by selecting a cell or a range of cells, and then you apply a particular formatting to it. So you can actually implement a set of formatting tools or rules to a selected range of cells, or before you even input the data, or make an input into the various cells and selecting those range of cells and then applying the formatting tool to them. Either ways, you are fine. Okay, so we have what we refer to as the formatting cells dialog box. Formatting cells dialog box. Let me just take you straight to the demo section. Right, so I have a document opened right here with some content already contained in it, a series of columns and some rows with some captured data in there, okay, for this particular demonstration. Now if you look on this screen, we have the ribbon, the undo group on the home tab, the font group, the alignment group, the number group, etc. Several of them. Now basically much of what you do from the font group and then the alignment group all contains tools that can enable you format your document in one way or the other. We're going to look at most of these. We have the formatting dialog box. As you can see from here, you click on this contextual tool tab and then it triggers this dialog box. So you'll see the title of the dialog box is labeled format cells. We have number tab, alignment tab, font, border, fill, protection. None of these tools will alter the content of any cell. However, the only adjustment has to do with just the look and feel of that particular document, the appearance, and no changes to the data, but just the appearance. And all of these tools contribute towards formatting. We will be applying some of them. So this is just to let us see what we are trying to drive home as far as this section is concerned. So you take notice of that. Okay, so if you look at this particular dialog box, okay, we have certain portions that I want to draw your attention to. Let me zoom in here so you can see clearly. So we have the if you pick the number tab, for example, we have various categories of the numbers that you could be dealing with in Microsoft Excel. Okay, we have series of them. If you look at date, for example, we have various types of dates. There's a sample that you see above there, and then you see a number of date formatting types. Instances where the month comes before the date, before the year, and vice versa. Instances where it is written in full, etc. So depending on what format you require for whatever document you're working on, you are able to select this particular formatting option to apply to the data. Simply that way you get to do it that way. You are not changing the data values, you are only changing the appearance or the look and feel of what exactly you may be dealing with. So basically that is the formatting values, formatting cell dialog box and what it entails. Now if we should focus on the key features of the actual application worksheets, okay, I made mention of the fact that this group, font group, alignment group, number group, pretty much most of these comprises formatting tools which we can apply to a cell or a range of selected cells. So we'll begin with the font group. And underscore some of the features that are available that we can use to format our cells, and then we can apply some of them. Now when we say a font, like I said, this information is not different from what you got to know in Microsoft Word. A font simply is the name of a collection of characters with similar specific design. They have similar specific design, okay? That is what referred to as a font, and the size of a font is the physical size of the text. Okay, so there are metrics that have been applied to this. Okay, so if I select any cell with an input contained in there, you will notice that under the font size section, the same value is there, 11, 11, 11, 11. This value can be adjusted. This is the font size, and of course this is the type, particular font that you choose. This is by default the font that is available, but when you click on the drop down button, there are a host of different fonts that you can choose from. Now mind you, when you select a font, it applies to either a selected active cell or a range of selected cells. So for example, if I select this range of cells from recruiter to expense, and then I change the font type to maybe what I'm seeing over here, you clearly see the differences between this selected range of cells as far as their font is concerned, and then this particular range. So this one is Calibri, and this one there's Adobe, whatever name we call it over there. And this can be done in several ways. So basically that's what the font type does. If it has to do with the size, you can increase the size, and obviously for having selected this active cell and changing the size to 20, there's a clear difference between the size of this text in this cell as compared to the size of the text in this other cell next to it. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is not anything new to you. You can see the synonymous nature of these features as compared to Microsoft Word. Now the default font in Excel is actually 11 points Calibri. That is the default, as you see over here. If you don't choose any font type or size, once you open a new fresh document, that is the default font and then size, font type and size that you can have access to or available to you. So you take notice of that. Okay, so what next? So let's try and see. So this is just about the font and the font size. Another thing we can talk about is the font styles and alignment. The font styles and alignments. We have attributes which we are referring to as styling formats. We can say bold, italics, and underlining. These are attributes that we can make use of by way of formatting formatting data input in Microsoft Excel. Alignment is also another formatting tool we can make mention of, which determines the position of data in a cell as to whether it should sit on the left of the cell, the center of the cell, or the right side of the cell. And then we also talk about the format painter that allows you to copy all formatting attributes of selected cells and then applying them to other cells. So we use the copy. We can copy multiple format settings or individual ones and apply them as in how we want it to be. So let me demonstrate this for you quickly so that you get to appreciate exactly what we're talking about. Okay, so if you look at the information we have here, let's begin with the attributes bit. So I can choose to bolding this range of cells by going to the font type, font group, and selecting the bold. An alternative way of dealing with this is to just selecting the range of cells and then holding the control key and adding the B to it, to bolden it on the from the keyboard shortcut to deliver on the same thing. I can do same for the referencing section and then make it bold, or selecting it and then going to make it bold over here. Now, if it has to do with the format painter, as we made mention of, one thing we can do is I can select this section of this cell, not just this section, this cell, as you can see from here, and then I'll copy the format. I'll use the format painter to copy the boldness, the font type, etc., every single type of format that applies to this, and then apply it to this range of values or just one cell. This is what we're trying to imply. So I can click here and drag up to the very end, and whatever applied here will replicate itself on the appearance of this selected range of cells. It's pretty simple like that. We made mention of alignment as well. So if you can look closely to the content in this particular cell, let me expand this so that you can see it clearly. You should be mindful of the gestures that we are seeing. So for example, to expand this this column, you move the cursor to the middle point between columns, say E and F. Of course, that applies to all other columns. And then once your pointer turns into the right and left arrows with a black line in between, you can click and hold and drag into position to suit whatever you probably want. Right, now if you look at this cell here, the input is position by way of text, and this text here is sitting on the far left of the cell. By default, that is left alignment, but watch, I can right align it so the position sits on the right side of the cell, or I can center align it. These are options that are available. You can actually also middle align or top align, irrespective of your major alignment below here. So this is what we refer to as the alignment. There are common font styles and alignment buttons that we have exclusively highlighted so that you can take notice of them as far as this section is concerned. So we have the bold cell content, which is the B. The I is italicized cell content. The U, which will underline cell content, etc. I mean, all of these font styles and alignment buttons are available to you. You'll get to see all of them under primarily the font group and then the alignment group of your worksheet or working window. So that is for your information and for you to practice and know. Now, one thing we can also do is to adjust column width. We can adjust column width. Now we can adjust column width to accommodate data. We have the column default width to be 8.4 characters wide, a little less than 1 inch, pretty much. But one or more columns can be adjusted using the ribbon and then the shortcut menu or the mouse. This is actually possible. So what we're saying is that if you pick a column, that is exactly what I tried to show you earlier on briefly. So the column the column width has to do with how wide a column can be. So by default, as you can see, this cell here has this content, Boston MA. You don't see the A. Okay, this is because by default the column width is set to take 8.43 characters wide, but you can perform several adjustments to this. You can either hold it from here and expand it. Okay, you can also double click at this same portion to expand it so that everything appears in full view. Same thing can be applied to this section, and so on and so forth. That's why we're saying you can use a shortcut menu with the mouse, or several other features that are available for you to use to display exactly what you want to display if you want it to appear in full view. Okay, so you take notice of that. Great. So we have some common column formatting commands that we want to draw your attention to. We have the column width, which sets the width to a specific number of characters. We have the auto fit column width, which fits the widest entry in the column. That is what I did by way of demonstration. If you can recall, let me just undo much of what I just did. So what we're saying is it fits to the widest entry in the column. So if you open this, expand this clearly, you notice that administrator is the tallest. I can use probably this to determine the width of the column. So when I double click, for example, by default, let me just reset it. It will expand so that the cell within the column with the longest string of text will be the benchmark to determine how wide it opens. That's an auto fit column width action or command that you would have implemented to deliver on that. That is what we mean here. You can hide and unhide columns. You can reset columns to worksheets default column width. So how do we hide some of these things? So if I'm not interested in column E, for example, all I need to do is to right click on that column and hide it. Now clearly you will notice that there is column A, B, C, and D, and then suddenly we move on to F. And so that means something is hidden right from here, and that is possible. If I want it to come into view, all I need to do is move the pointer to that section and let it turn into the two parallel lines. So you notice that it's a two parallel line, but each line has an arrow to the right and to the left. You have to be careful of what you view. The view is quite different when there is no hidden column between two columns. But when there is a hidden column or multiple hidden columns, the look and feel of the pointer is quite different. All you need to do is just double click, and then it will bring back into view the hidden column, and several other ways of getting it done. Okay, right. So you need to take notice of this as well. You should be practicing these things as you watch them. Okay, take notice of that. Now, how do we insert and delete rows in a column? I did something similar like this in the previous session by introducing a row where I indicated quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. I'm sure you will remember if you indeed partook in it. So when you insert a new row, the content of the worksheet shifts down from the newly inserted row. And when you insert a new column, the content of the worksheet shifts to the right of the new column. Excel literally inserts rows above the cell pointer and columns to the left, and inserts multiple rows or columns by selecting the same number of row or column headings to be inserted. Okay, so this is pretty simple and straightforward. So if we pick a row, for example, if I select this row and I click insert, it will shift the row below the row which I selected to implement the insert. It will pull it down and then create the new inserted row above it. I can get similar thing done over the column side, so it will shift it towards the right of the new column. It's as simple as that. Now, if for example I want about 3 new columns inserted before date, posted, location, and position, I select the range of cells that I'm interested in. I right click and I insert, and I'll get exactly 3 new columns, empty columns inserted, and then the ones on which I stood will be pushed further down the right. This is what we see. This is what we mean by inserting multiple rows or columns by selecting the same number of rows or columns to this particular effect. Okay, so it's nothing too complicated, right? You take notice of that as well. Now you can also delete a row. When you delete a row, the contents of the worksheet will shift up, and then when you delete a column too, the content of the worksheet will shift to the left. And then you can delete multiple rows or columns by selecting all of the row or the column headings to be deleted. This is quite simple and straightforward, the same way as we inserted new rows and columns. So I can hold this from this section and then just hit the delete button. So it deletes what I selected and then shifts the content from the right section to the left. I don't know how you are viewing my video right now in the camera, but I hope you get the whole point. You should practice this to get the experience for yourself. Okay, it's not just by way of demonstration for you to see, right? Now you can also add enhancements such as colors, patterns, and borders to your Excel worksheet. You know, border and fill color buttons in the font group, on the home group, on the home tab of the ribbon, and then on the mini toolbar can help you achieve this. And then you can use the fill tab and border tab in the format and cell dialog box to get this thing done. You also have the cell styles that are pre-designed combinations of formatting attributes. So you can use these styles buttons in the styles group on the home tab. That is something you can, I mean, this styles is no new word to you after going through the Microsoft Word. We're actually not done with the Word. There's something else that I'll be showing you eventually. So brace yourself for that. The road is not over yet. So what we mean by what I've just said, let's demonstrate this clearly so that you can get to appreciate exactly what we're talking about, shall we? Okay. So we're saying that you can add enhancements such as color patterns to borders. Now, this in its raw state, for example, okay, if we've not discussed printing yet, but in its raw state, you know, we see edges, we have rows, columns, etc., etc. But there are clearly no borders. Now, what I mean by there are no borders is this. You watch closely. I select a range of cells, and then we go to the font group as was mentioned, and then we see a host of border options: bottom border, top border, left border, etc. I'm going to do all borders. You clearly see the difference between this selected section and then any cell outside here. You get to see that there are borders indeed now showing, and these borders can be enhanced in several ways. You can add colors to them, as we made mention of, you know. So I should probably have selected the entire worksheet, and you have this color forming around all of it. What I can do is select all of them, for example, and then applying the border color to it entirely, and it applies. If I select yellow and I bring it here, it applies to this section. You can play with these things as and how you want them. Another thing you can also do is to use the line style, you know, for a range of cells. You may want to make them bold and bigger depending on the color you have selected. So you notice that the yellow color is quite thicker here than you can find here. There are clear differences. Okay, right. So that is just about the borders. You can apply colors, borders, and then documentation to your work. So we have several styles that you can choose from. So we have line styles, we have the colors, and then we have erasing even a border entirely. So these are a lot more tools at your disposal for you to take advantage of. Okay, now you need to practice these more and more, right? Now another portion of the things we need to learn is applying conditional formatting. Conditional formatting. Excel can format cells based on specific results. We have automatic application for formatting attributes on cell values, and we call that conditional formatting. So based on the value that turns out in a particular cell, something should appear in a particular manner. And we have different formats that are automatically applied if data meets conditions that you will specify. Data bars are also a type of conditional formatting that visually illustrates differences among values. And so let me quickly demonstrate this to you as well, so that we see exactly what we are talking about. Okay, so we're going to use some of this information that we have here. Okay, in this second sheet, let me zoom it in play so that you can see. Great. So we have these figures here. I can't tell which is the minimum, so I can select a range of cells, maybe the entire column if I want, and then from the ribbon I go to the stars ribbon. I dictate that I select the conditional formatting tool. I'm just going to do the conditional one pretty much. What I like mostly is when there are duplicated values. I don't think there's any duplicated value in here, so it will clearly not make sense for us to get what we want. Okay, so I see some values more than 1,200 there in the cell, so maybe I'll choose greater than. Okay, so it should look through this column and then find values that are greater than. Well, it gave me a default value, but that can work. And then I've detected that. So you indicate, in this case I chose greater than condition. You should format cells with values greater than 1,495.35. And how should you format them? You should make them light red with dark red text, or you should make them maybe green filled with dark red text, whichever one. So once I select, as you can see, this one has turned green, but that's not my interest here. It has affected the entire column. I'm interested in just this portion where we have values. So let me use the greater than. So this highlighted cell rules. Is it that there's no value like greater than what do you call it? Greater than 1,4. There are several values. There's 1,645. I don't know why this thing is not displaying the way it should, but greater than, let me just say, okay, so I don't want a dollar symbol, greater than 1,400. Now I hope you see what is happening there. Okay, so the reason why it wasn't working earlier was because there was a dollar symbol against it. However, that dollar symbol is only a formatting. So if you observed, when I select a cell, what I actually get to see is the value of the cell and not the dollar symbol as you see over here. So this is a formatting tool that has been applied to it. And maybe you want to know how this works out. So if I put, say, 1,200, 134 something, in this particular order, okay, these may be representing amounts of monetary values. They may have monetary representation, and I'll be using them for probably some computational purposes. I can't just go ahead and come and put a dollar symbol against it and type it in that way, else it will lose its character type. Okay, I want to maintain the number so that I can use it for other computation. But how do I make it appear like the dollar symbol? Okay, only select the range of cells. That's an option. Okay, and you can click the format cells from the drop down, or you can just go straight to the number group and then utilize more formats option. It will give you the same display. So you can go through this route or that route, and then I can indicate that it's a currency, and then the symbol is Ghana CD, for example. We have dollar, we have almost all the currencies you can think of available. In this case, I'm sticking with Ghana CD, and then I apply it to it. Now watch here. In the formula bar, you notice it's 1,200. However, in the cell display view, you get to see that it is GHC. You get the whole point. So I can go ahead and probably even initialize some auto sum of the values of these values, and it will give me the total value, and that's fine. That's the same that is happening here. So if I want a conditional formatting to affect the cells, or this range of cells, and I want to highlight values that are greater than the value, in this section I can't maintain this dollar symbol here. I need to do without it, because the reality in the cell is the value that is sitting in there, and not the dollar symbol or the currency symbol that is attached to it, which is only adding some description to it. I hope this explanation is clear enough. Okay, so if I want it to look green, fill with dark green text, it will happen to it. If I want it to be light red, if I want it to be red text. In fact, if you want to customize the conditional formatting, you can also go ahead and use the custom format and play with it in a like manner. Okay, right, so that is just about that one. Now another thing you can also do is to rename and move a worksheet. Now by default, an Excel workbook initially contains one worksheet, and then which is a name sheet 1. It is named sheet 1, but you can also alter all of this and even add certain colors to it. So for example, if you look here, we have sheet 1 and then sheet 2. Let me just get rid of this. All right, so we have sheet 1 and sheet 2. It's not, you are not limited to these labels, so you can right click and then rename it and say maybe test 1. That's how I call it. And not just the name can you change, but you can also assign them any color of your choice. I can do same here and then give it a different color, as well as rename it, or even possibly delete the sheet. You can even change the order of the sheets by clicking and dragging into position where you want it to be, which one should come before what. It is actually quite straightforward and simple to achieve that. Okay, now another thing you can do is to perform spelling check in a worksheet. Perform a spelling check in the worksheet. Now spelling checker scans the worksheet and flags possible mistakes and suggests corrections to it. And if you want to do this, it will display the worksheet and run the spelling check again for you. You can add words that are misspelled correctly but are not recognized by the spelling checker. All of that is also possible with Microsoft Excel. It's not just available in Microsoft Word. Okay, so we have a lot of tools that are available for us to deliver on most of these features that we have made mention of, and I need you to take notice of them. Okay, great. So the dialog box actually for the spell checker looks something like this. You know, if you have ever spelled word, it's nothing different from the Microsoft Word spell checker, and they are all triggered by same tools, right? Okay, so this brings us to the end of formatting in the worksheet. I hope you have learned something. We shall move on to the next section. If you have come this far, kudos, but there is more we are going to do. Let's engage again soon.